If it's hard to figure out what's going on right now, it's because we are living on one of those blank pages in between chapters in American history. And what comes next could be ugly or it could be amazing. And I believe running for office is an act of hope, and so is voting for somebody and supporting somebody and volunteering for somebody. I hope you'll join me in making sure that that next era is better than any that we've had so far.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you. Wow, a standing ovation.
There you go. That is Mayor Pete getting a standing ovation on Fox News, a forum Elizabeth Warren wants nothing to do with. Good morning and welcome to Morning Joe. It's Monday, May 20th, and I'm in Washington today. I'll be interviewing Speaker Nancy Pelosi later today for an MSNBC Headliners special that will air later this summer, but we will be bringing you some of the interview tomorrow on Morning Joe. And with us now, we have columnist and associate editor for the Washington Post, David Ignatius. Politics editor for the Daily Beast, Sam Stein. Former chief of staff to the DCCC and a former director of strategic communications for Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign, Adrienne Elrod. She's an MSNBC contributor. And Washington anchor for BBC World News America, Katty Kay, is with us. And MSNBC contributor Mike Barnicle up in New York. Joe, my daughter and I watched that town hall and just thought it was pretty amazing what happened last night.
Well, the reaction to Mayor Pete has been remarkable, especially for a nation that has learned to become very cynical of politicians of all stripes. But you could see the response on Twitter. You could see hear the response from friends and neighbors, just like after his announcement, and it's quite unlike anything that I know that you and I have ever seen. And, you know, as you know, Mika, I only can tell three kind of stories. They're either baseball stories, Winston Churchill stories, or rock and roll stories. And looking at Mayor Pete last night and once again seeing this remarkable response, I was reminded of one of the most famous lines by any rock critic in music history, and that line was, "I have seen the future of rock and roll, and it is Bruce Springsteen." John Landau wrote that, and pretty smart guy to write that in 73, 74. Well, I've seen the future of the Democratic Party, and it's Mayor Pete. It may not be in 2020.
Right. Perhaps
it's in 2024 or beyond, but this guy is going to play an important role in the mainstreaming of the Democratic Party for many years to come. And believe you me, that is exactly what he does. Regardless of ideology, Mayor Pete mainstreams a Democratic Party, much in the same way Nancy Pelosi fights every day to make sure that her House caucus does the same, and that Joe Biden's doing on the campaign trail today.
Yeah, I find him to be a really exciting candidate. And during that town hall last night on Fox News, 2020 presidential candidate Mayor Pete Buttigieg slammed two of the network's most prominent primetime hosts for divisive comments they have made on air. And he also dismissed the tweets of the president. Take a look.
Especially when you see what goes on with some of the opinion hosts on this network. I mean, when you got Tucker Carlson saying that immigrants make America dirty, when you've got Laura Ingraham comparing detention centers with children in cages to summer camps, then there is a reason why anybody has to swallow hard and think twice before participating in this media ecosystem. But I also believe that even though some of those hosts are not always there in good faith, I think a lot of people tune into this network who do it in good faith. And there are a lot of Americans who my party can't blame if they are ignoring our message, because they will never hear it if we don't go on and talk about it. And so it's why, whether it's going into the viewership of Fox News or whether geographically it's going into places where Democrats haven't been seen much, I think we've got to find people where they are, not change our values, but update our vocabulary so that we're truly connecting with Americans from coast to coast.
How would you handle the insults and the attacks and the tweets and all of that?
The tweets are, I don't care. We need to make sure that we're changing the channel from this show that he's created. Because what matters, and I get it, look, it's mesmerizing. It's hard for anybody to look away. Me too. It is the nature of grotesque things that you can't look away.
By the way, no defense of Tucker or Laura Ingraham there. And as for the aforementioned tweets, President Trump weighed in hours before the town hall, criticizing Fox News, tweeting Fox is moving more and more to losing wrong side and covering the Dems. They got dumped from the Democrats' boring debates, and they just won in. They forgot the people who got them there. Fox senior news analyst Britt Hume defended the event, responding to Trump, writing, quote, "Say this for Buttigieg, he's willing to be questioned by Chris Wallace, something you've barely done since you've been president. Oh, and covering candidates of both parties is part of the job of a news channel." Wow. Joe?
Yeah, you know, Mika, that reminds me of when Donald Trump wrote about, you know, bleeding badly from a facelift or calls me Psycho Joe. And people say, well, how do you do it, Joe? And we're like, well, because we don't care. And that's the thing. You've got to have that sort of mindset. You've got to see it as sort of a carnival, sort of a sideshow. And Mayor Pete does. A lot of other candidates become so upset and enraged, and he doesn't even go there. And Mike Barnicle, in those two answers, he responded in the most powerful way any candidate can respond to Donald Trump. Not by fear, not by comparing him to Hitler, not by being angry, which we do from time to time, but by laughing at him. It's grotesque. It's a sideshow. I don't care. Let's get on with the business of getting working Americans back to work and getting them good jobs with good pay.
You know, Joe, if you and I were running Pete's campaign, Mayor Pete's campaign for president, you might be tempted to tell him just to show those clips repeatedly, the ones that we just showed, because they show a calm, direct, composed delivery of common sense to voters, and the reaction with the crowd was clearly obvious, and that's one of the reasons that he's doing so well. I think he delivers information in a calm, direct way that very few other candidates do, and he has the correct answer to the presidential tweets. Who cares? You know, he's the tweets are so voluminous and so predictable. Who really cares? And I think he triggered a lot of reasons for people to think about him as a presidential candidate. Not that a whole lot of people have not yet thought about him, but those who were not thinking about him in the Fox audience, they're going to be thinking about him today.
Hey, David, you've seen a few presidential candidates. I wonder whether Mika and I are being a bit excessive in our praise of Mayor Pete, but I've seen a lot of candidates. I think this guy, I almost called him kid, because he's like 20 years younger than me. I think this kid is special. I do think there's something about this guy that separates him from the thousands of politicians that you and I have seen over the past few decades.
He's unusually smart.
Yes.
I mean, he really is a brilliant guy. He evokes Barack Obama's raw intelligence, but he's just got this way of seeming to break through the conventional things that politicians say. It just sounds real when he says it. That long pause and then, I don't care, when he's talking about the tweets. His description of Trump, that he's mesmerizing in the way that grotesque things are. I don't know that I've heard a better description of what it is that makes the whole country watch this guy through his antics and taunts, a better account than that. So we'll see. It's early in the campaign. He is distinguishing himself from this very large field, in part because he seems to be speaking so directly to people. And let's see if he can sustain it.
Well, and Adrian Elrod, let's talk about the reality here. I mean, this is a young man with incredible diverse experience, incredible education, speaks up to 8 languages, served our country abroad, and has this pastoral demeanor that really makes him stand out, especially among young people.
Right.
But the African-American vote, polling shows he's got nothing, and he can't win without that.
Well, that's exactly right, Mika. He's got some work to do in that community, but I think he's got plenty of time here, and I know that he's building a strong. I mean, it's mid-May, but we've still got 9 months until the South Carolina primary. He's building a team in South Carolina. He is working to make sure that he can attract that level of vote. But this is what I love that he's doing right now. He's going out to audiences that, frankly, a lot of Democratic challengers, candidates, are too scared to go in front of. They're too scared to go in front of Fox News viewers. We learned in 2016 during Hillary Clinton's campaign that 20% of Fox viewers are Democrats and 10% of Fox viewers are independents.
Right.
So this is an audience that could possibly vote in the Democratic primary, and you've got to at least make your case to them. And I think the way he did it last night, especially with Chris Wallace, who's a very fair host compared to some of the others on Fox News, is a good cue for other Democratic challengers to follow.
I just wonder if he can make up the ground that is not there with the African American community, Sam.
Well, it's a huge hurdle.
It's a huge
for
hurdle.
obvious reasons, and one of them is that he's been the mayor of South Bend, Indiana. It's not like he has these institutional ties to the African American community. It's not to say he can't develop them, but he is starting from a position of intense weakness in that part. But I think what he does have, which I think is separating him, is not just a willingness to go and engage those audiences. And I should note the DNC did cancel its debate on Fox News, so maybe they should revisit that decision if that's the premise we're operating off of. But I think mostly politics is about a reaction to the moment. It seems to me, at least, that way. Barack Obama was a reaction to George W. Bush, and certainly Donald Trump was a reaction to Barack Obama. And what I think Mayor Pete has done to some degree of success is he's been a reaction to Donald Trump, which
really is a man of the
someone
moment.
who is incredibly willing to engage multiple audiences. He's not conventionally partisan. He's happy to talk to Fox viewers. He is from, obviously, the Midwest, which is kind of personified the Trump voter in a way. And so he's made that a part of his message, someone who is definitely not of the politics of the moment, but the politics of the future. And there's been a lot of success in terms of fundraising and polling data. I don't know if that translates into like concrete Democratic Party institutionalist success. That's his challenge. He has to staff up, he has to use that money, spend it wisely, and get inroads in the African American community and elsewhere.
All right. So
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.